He's lovely and warm, and he's great company. Plus, he always lets me know if I make any mistakes in my storytelling. Tonight, take a pew beside the fire, and let me tell you how I first stumbled upon this quaint little clearing I've come to know as night falls. Though I didn't know it back then, the magic that rises off these crystalline falls was the warm and sleepy force that drew me towards the clearing at first and left me feeling sleepier than ever before. I had totted my tiredness up to the humidity rising off the waterfall when I first arrived. But little by little, the magic of night falls revealed itself to me and showed me the untamable beauty of the clearing it makes its home in. With every perfect day since my arrival in Night Falls, every silver moon and stunning sunrise, the magic has shown me the beauty that can be found in the world around us. It has taught me that the peace and happiness I deserve, the rest and relaxation I seek, cannot be afforded to me by worldly possessions and accolades. I found peace and fulfillment here, at the foot of the falls, and I hope that in telling you my tale tonight, you too might find just enough peace to drift off to sleep. Before I begin my story, take a moment to clear your mind. For much about these mystical falls defies logic, cannot be explained away by rhyme or reason. To understand the true nature of night falls, it's important to maintain an open mind. It took me many moons to realize that magic fills the air here. And as you take a deep breath in, perhaps you can feel it too. Take a moment to savor that feeling and exhale, letting the breath drain from your body on a long, lazy sigh of relief. Breathing in deeply, welcome calmness, kindness, and a sense of openness into your body. Exhaling, let go of any negative energy still lingering within you after another long day. Breathing in deeply now, allow stillness, serenity, and a sense of curiosity to flow into you. And exhaling, let go of the notion of right or wrong, fact or fiction, as you allow yourself a moment to imagine life beyond the borders of the one that seems to have already been laid out for you. Drawing in a deep breath, grant yourself permission to simply be, just as you are, at this very moment in time. Sighing out, let any self-critical thoughts drain from your body as you grant yourself the time to relax by the fireside with me. Before I found myself in Night Falls, I, like many, lived and thrived in the bright lights and bustling busyness of the city. I enjoyed my time there very much and was grateful to have truly amazing friends and loved ones with whom I had plans aplenty. But one weekend in particular, following a rather jam-packed week, I recall feeling like a brief change of pace might be exactly what I needed in order to relax and recharge. I wasn't looking for an escape when I bundled my tent into my hiking bag and made my way out to the car. I already felt fortunate in 1,000 different ways for the life I had. In truth, I was simply hankering after a moment of quiet to refresh me and give me a chance to recharge, so I could go back to the city feeling ready for whatever life threw my way. It has always been of great importance to me that I live my life to the fullest, and the older I've gotten, the clearer it has become that in order to do that, in order to be present and ready to take on the world, I must first take care of myself. I think it was for that very reason that I decided to take a trip to the mountain range I'd visited nearly every summer as a child. Though I was still a young man at the time, I think it was beginning to dawn on me, even then, that I needed to find ways to fully rest and relax if I wanted to lead a life as full and fast-paced as the one I cherished so much. I'd fond memories of running wild through the thick grass that grew on the mountain tops, and knew that in wandering the same paths as I did all those years ago, I would be able to clear my mind and recoup some of my energy. Though my memory of the mountain range was hazy and almost dreamlike as I journeyed towards it that day, I felt sure it had struck me as a deeply peaceful place to be even as a child, when no doubt I was the biggest disruption to the sweet silence that glazes these hilltops. It wasn't a long drive, perhaps an hour or so, and there was something rather relaxing about watching the busier city streets give way to the rolling expanse of the countryside. Tall buildings shrunk into the distance in my rear view mirror as quainter cottages, the likes of which had been illustrated in the fairy tale books I cherished as a child, began to line themselves along the side of the road. By the time I was nearing the mountain range itself, the horizon had completely opened out. I enjoyed the newfound sense of space as I trundled along in my trusty little car. I followed the road that cut between farmers' fields and rolling pastures to the very foot of the mountains that eclipsed them. When I finally arrived that sunny Saturday morning, I realized that the beauty of the place had been almost entirely lost on me as a child. So taken was I with my games and my mischief that I must have missed the wildflowers that bloomed upon the hillsides. I couldn't recall having ever noticed the pine trees that feathered the western faces of the mountains and stretched up towards the heavens. But that day, I marveled at the way their highest branches dipped into the sunlight that they'd stretched up to gather, even with roots anchoring them at the pit of some of the deepest valleys and ravines in the area. As an adult, and especially as one used to the crush and crowd of the city skyline, the mountain range appeared nothing short of stunning to me. And perhaps it always had been. I'd just not paid it enough attention as a young boy to know that it was deserving of my gratitude. I called into the tourist office briefly, a small wooden hut with an elderly woman propping herself up over an information desk. She smiled at me as I plucked a map from the display of leaflets before her, and I smiled back before heading on my way. There's nothing treacherous about these hillsides and the hiking trails that run over them, particularly in the summertime when the weather is fair. There's no risk to passing explorers, only rolling hilltops and the occasional stream to traverse with a hop and a skip. In lieu of that, the morning walk was a gentle one. The trail I took up the first mountain was gradual and meandering, and eased me into what I had thought would be just 2 blissful days of silence and solitude as I explored the area. My tent on my back, slowing me a little as the incline steepened. I reached the first summit around midday, and just moments before the drizzle began. The rain wasn't cold across my skin, and, in truth, I found it rather calming. Having reached the summit already, I found myself exposed to the elements, and as the rain grew heavier, I walked on through it. It was cathartic to wander through the shower like that, and when the skies finally cleared and I began to dry off, I found myself feeling lighter than I had in years. The thoughts that crowded at the corners of my mind had all been washed away, and my mind felt crystal clear. I recall feeling more present than ever before, and noted that the air tasted fresher after the summer rain. The grass appeared greener with raindrops beating upon each blade of it, and the sun felt warmer upon my skin. It was only then that I thought to stop and review the map. It had been sitting untouched in my pocket for several hours, and I hadn't noticed the water seeping through my pockets and leaving it sodden. As I unfolded it, the paper began to come apart in my hands, and the ink had bled to such an extent that the dotted red line marking out the path I was able to take had become a series of undecipherable pinkish smudges upon the page. The weather was fair again, and I was in no mood to turn back, so I tucked what remained of the map back into my pocket and carried along on my way. My goal was to reach the summit of the next hillside before the day was out and make camp there for the evening. With that in mind, I suppose the only way was onwards. I was walking along a ridge towards the second summit when I spotted it. The yellow belly of a tiny warbler bird resting on a fallen log in the undergrowth. I'd left my bird-watching days behind me when I moved to the big city, but I spent enough of my childhood with my grandfather's binoculars pressed eagerly to my eyes as he pointed out the birds in the sky above, to know that the warbler couldn't have been native to these parts. It had been years since I'd seen one of the flaxen birds. Usually, they were skittish and hard to catch a glimpse of before they fluttered off into the ether. But this one seemed almost brazen as it hopped closer to me. It landed on the toe of my boot, and I stood stock still, honoured that the tiny creature trusted me enough to get so close.